hate them.
Hey, Grant.
It's not funded.
Hold on a second. It's so.
Not funded. But stranger things have happened. But not at $20 million.
President's probably 2 minutes away, just answering the question. So why don't we? We can't we? And we'll take the easy questions first, and then the hard ones later. How about that? Okay. So yeah, I'll probably start off. We'll leave a spot for him as he comes. So. There we go. There's only about 1,200 of them. But, when you're ready, let me know.
Okay, we're on.
Okay, great. Welcome to the last day of the session. Great to see so many people here. We've got 11 to 12 hours left, and I think we're counting. So I think we had a good discussion this morning. Lots of bills are moving through both the House and the Senate, so probably open it up for any discussion. Any questions?
I have 2 questions for you. For you.
Great. Yeah, there we go.
Number one.
He's been waiting all session for these.
We have a new program now that we can take our emails, and most of them, if not all, we put on the internet so you can see. Have anybody looked at that to see what we posted?
Yes.
Every day.
Do you really?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, really?
Almost every day.
Well, I'm impressed. That you do that. Tell me what they all, no, what they all say.
Senator Jenkins moves every piece of spam that comes into his inbox. See, he's got a lot of clothing companies offering discounts.
We get plenty of that.
I know that the city and the county do enacted.
We've left that to family, but everything we're hearing is very positive.
Yeah, I think they're probably better to talk to them. We're hearing good things.
I'm sure not nowhere near.
Any other questions? I'm waiting for Lyle's second question.
My second question is this. If we take the session till 12:30, that's actually the next day, you all get paid an extra day of work?
We wish.
Darn.
No.
I'm not sure even we do.
We don't either.
Yeah, I'm not sure we do.
With some misgivings, I guess.
Senator Hillary, can you kind of give us just a final overview of the budget and what some of the highlights were and I guess what?
Well, let me tell you, as you look at this budget, and I've had a number of people come and tell me it's probably one of the best ones they've seen. We funded public education growth, we funded the WPU at 2.5, which should be enough left over for some salary increases in addition to benefits. We can't say that for sure because every district negotiates separately, and some districts have higher benefits than others, so just how they apply that. We were able to fund, and the total amount, I noticed the other day, the ongoing revenue was just $134.5 million.
Okay, sounds good.
And we started out with $247 million ongoing, including general fund. So they got well over 50% of the new ongoing revenue into public education. As I said on the floor, education was, is, and always will be our top priority. Higher education was funded very well this year. I think they're very excited about the equity funding we're able to put in, plus some other programs we're able to touch. And I think Senator Urquhart and has really, in the Senate side, has really gotten us more focused on success rather than students. And I think you'll see in the years go as he makes these changes, you'll see an emphasis more on kids graduating than kids attending. So I think that Health and Human Services, I think, did a marvelous job. And of all the committees I want to compliment for the base budget, they are the ones. They really went back in, they found some programs, reallocated money, and I think they really trimmed that up in a way that, again, I think you're going to see some long-term benefits of that. And so those are three. I could go on executive courts and corrections. I think we were able to address some needs there. The Attorney General's office, we were able to give them some financial help. The Guardian Ad Litem's office and some salary issues. Highway Patrol and some salary issues. The building of the pod, I think that's going to be very needed, and the governor strongly supported that. So I think as we talked to the governor, there's obviously one or two items I can say, there's one or two items I'd like to fund that weren't. But I think by and large, the governor should be pleased well with what we've done with the budget.
I wanted to ask you that. What would you like to see more? The one or two things.
Well, I think in my own area is I'm always interested in Utah State University. I would like to give them more, but they're just part of the system and get funded there. But I try not to be too overly supportive because I take a role that has to be system-wide. And so I would have liked to fund more of some of the special programs in public education. I think we've got some programs going there. I was glad we were able to fund the language thing. I forgot.
Dual immersion.
Dual immersion.
Yeah.
I think that's been a marvelous program in the state of Utah, and I think as we expand that and grow, I just, from my own self, I had the good fortunes of serving an LDS mission in Holland, and I remember when I learned Dutch, I learned more English than I had Dutch. I think when you learn a second language, it brings a thing. So that's a program that I think is growing. And then there were some of those programs in that area I wish we'd had more money for in public ed, but fund the basics that the districts all want, the WPU and the growth, we're able to do that at the level requested. So I think they should be.
I can say this, that we're cheering down at UVU and down in Dixie and up at Salt Lake Community College, because these institutions for many, many, many years have gone without the equity that the other institutions have had. So we're very, very pleased that came into the budget this year.
And we held money in transportation, and I think so they did well. And you know, I think we talk about the money we've spent, but we're pretty fortunate in Utah because I think we manage our affairs well. We're business friendly, and because of that, the private sector, when it expands and grows, you can see what effect it has on the public sector. And we need to keep the private sector vibrant. And I think we've done that with a lot of even some of the tax credits and different things we've done just to try to encourage that. So that's probably a number one focus. Will probably, hopefully always be, is to try to maintain a really great economy.
Senator Davis, can you give us a minority party, I guess, response on the budget and how you saw it go?
Well, I think the real positive thing is we balanced the budget. A lot of our priorities have been met. They're still out there, and I think the task force, the education task force, will be looking at it this year. And hopefully the funding. I think funding is going to continue to be a major concern in the state of Utah to make sure that we have adequate amount of funding there. And it concerns me when I see reports that show that in real dollars, we're not coming up very well with the state into the local districts. So we need to really take a look at that and what our per student expenditures are.
And some of the things that you wanted but couldn't be included this time around?
I think one of the things, I think we've made some strides in air quality, which was probably one of our number one issues as we came up here. And I think we've moved some bills forward. Hopefully, as we move forward, we'll be able to do that. I think one of the things that we were able to do was to try to get some scientists into the queue, and we were able to do that and get some funding in there to hopefully begin to address the air quality issues in the state of Utah.
One of the things that is apparently not addressed is transportation funding from a gasoline tax point of view. Senator Valentine, your bill didn't make it. SB 139 has now got nothing to do with registration fees on clean vehicles. Is this an issue for the next session? Sooner or later, you're going to have to address the motor fuel tax.
Dan, that is my personal disappointment that we did not address the motor fuel tax this session. We are going to have to address it in the future because we are using more and more of our general fund to build and maintain our roads. So we're taking it away from the user fee and putting it on the general obligations of the state. So for me personally, that was a disappointment that we did not address that this term.
Do you think election year politics might have driven that decision a little bit, or?
Yes.
No question, those are more difficult discussions in election years. I think that's a given. And we're at some point here, Senator Hilliard, we'd be pleased to have you give us the the budget in Dutch.
They've been at helemaal
Or has he been giving it in Dutch?
Any response to the House Investigative Committee report? You had a chance to look over it and your thoughts on it, what it found?
I have not had a chance to look over it, but I want to, after the session's over. I think there was some significant items that came out of that investigation, and we're already addressing some of those in Representative Dunnigan's bills and some others. Senator Valentine, you were the sponsor on at least 2 or 3 of those, weren't you?
Those were the 2 big ones that we had that arose out of that. And candidly, the report, which I downloaded last night and started reading, it's a very, very interesting narrative. It reads like a Tom Clancy novel. So I would encourage all the members of the media and the public to read it, because it's very interesting, the narrative that's being portrayed as to what has happened that gave rise to these events.
Be a 4-hour test on it at 4 o'clock.
Are you satisfied with some of the legislation that has come out addressing this? Because it seems like there is some bills that aren't making it through or have been significantly modified that maybe guts some of them.
Well, it's the nature of legislatures to react. Congress, all state legislatures react. I've mentioned this before in our press availability, our legislative update. Last year, there was a lot of gun bills. It was an emotional time for gun bills because of some incidents the previous year. This year we had other emotional issues that sometimes it's best to take a pause, take a breath, and then come back at a time when there's less emotion on those issues. And I think that highlights, we need to now take this report and digest it. We're addressing some of the highlights that came out of that report, and come back next session and with some deliberation come up with some good policy.
What about your relationship with the House this year? It seemed like it was pretty contentious during the budget negotiations. President, how would you describe the relationship this year?
I've been involved in budget meetings for many years, and Senator Valentine and Senator Hilliard could give you a long history, and this is not unprecedented, some of the disagreement that we had this year. The House has the items that they want to get funded. We have some of the items that we want to get funded, and there's conflict. And then inject the governor's office, who wants their items, and there's limited amounts of funds. So you're going to have some disagreement about that. And so I don't think it's unprecedented. It's a little bit different than last year, my first year as president. A little more disagreement. But I think that at the end of the day, we've come up with a really decent budget. We had a limited amount of funds, and we've distributed them appropriately.
Do you think, though, that the relationship was more difficult this year because of politics between the House and the Senate? Maybe the politics of the Speaker versus your own? Politics in terms of political future?
Yes, I'm running for governor in 2016.
Great announcement.
That's not an official announcement.
And Pat Jones is his running mate.
I like the other way around.
No, I have no aspirations for that, and I don't think the Speaker's ever announced that she is running for governor. I've never heard her officially say anything. That's a question you have to ask her, whether she's going to run or not. Every year we have all kinds of different politics that play out in the legislative process, and the biggest challenge I think we had this year was we had this education initiative, which we applaud the House for and the Speaker for bringing this to the attention of the legislative process. digital learning and devices, that technology in the hands of a trained teacher is going to be the future of our education. And so we're anxious and we're excited about now taking some of the discussion that we've had this year and multiplying on that and taking some time to deliberate about how we're going to do it here in the state of Utah and come back in future sessions and address it as we can appropriately address it with the money that we have available.
Do you think it'll be easier to deal with that issue next session with the speaker no longer in the House and the political agenda no longer being part of that discussion?
There will always be a speaker in the House.
Yeah, there'll always be a, yeah, that's right. But I've heard the president talk about process. I mean, that's one of the things that I think we believe in. I think he believes in very strongly, is let the process work. And the process is working. There was a lot of work done on the initiative. And I think we'll step on that stone. The bill that was crafted, it was a bill that was worked on by senators and House members and State Office of Education. There was a process put in place. I think we'll learn from that. And so, it may be easier because of the work that's been done, but I think, we're going through the process, and it's generally not fast here. And there's a reason why it's not fast. It's because we want to get it right. And I think that what's been done this session will help us get it right in the future.
What do you think is the most important item that was on your agenda that has not been done, something that didn't happen this session that you feel really does need to be addressed?
Gas tax.
Transportation is going to be a big issue for us next year, and education funding, and they're connected. I've mentioned a number of times here what I call budget buckets. When we take general funds to pay for transportation, we are taking money away from education because we have to pay more education dollars for higher ed to keep them whole, and that makes less money available for our public education system. And that's worked for us for the last 10 years. We're coming to a point where that just isn't going to work anymore. And we're going to be forced now to address our transportation needs, free up some of that education funds, more of those education funds for public ed, funding more of higher ed with general funds. And how we do that, well, that's going to be a little bit of a crystal ball question, but that's something that I'm hoping that we come back with some better answers in next session.
Senator Hilliard, you mentioned Medicaid. Are we going to have to wait until the next general session to deal with that?
I don't know. I think the governor's plan is to try to do what he can do to get the waivers, get the program that he proposed. And I'm sure if he gets something that's concrete, he'd call us into special session if he needs to. I think that's not an issue that's just going to suddenly go away. I think the governor's going to continue to focus on that. And we may come back in a special session to approve whatever he may be able to accomplish.
That would also dovetail into Lisa's question. Easier to deal with in a less politically charged environment?
For one, I didn't think the political environment was the difficulty. I think the uncertainty was. I mean, we don't know exactly what's going to happen. It keeps changing on us. And so I think the uncertainty was more difficult for me personally than the political.
I have a text question here. When are you guys going to help your SB 100?
As soon as Bob Gerke is on the floor as a senator sponsoring.
I ask it kind of facetiously, but obviously the decision was made early on not to hear that bill, not to hear Stuart Reed's bill. In hindsight, was that the right decision? And going forward, are you confident that those bills, particularly SB 100, will get a hearing next session?
In highlight of what happened in Kansas and Arizona, I'm more and more convinced that was the right decision for this session. Goes back to the whole discussion we had a little earlier today about an emotional time. We had Judge Shelby strike down Amendment 3, created a wave of concern through the whole state, and that just has created an emotional time to discuss those issues. I think we can come back in a less emotional time next year and address them better.
And the probability is it won't be 100 next year. We'll have a different number. Every session is different. I think different issues boil to the top. I think 100 is one of those issues, the current 100, one of those issues that's going to be for us until we address it. And so we're going to have to address it sooner rather than later.
Did you miss an opportunity this time?
I don't think we missed an opportunity. I think when we take a look at the lay of the land at the time, that the decisions were made not to address the bill, that there were reasons for that. I think since then, we've taken a look at Arizona and we've taken a look at Kansas and those competing issues and where they've been laid to the wayside. Hopefully they won't come back and force us to have to address those. We can really address the issues of 100.
But do you agree with not hearing it this year?
You know, I think in retrospect, I think yes, it was a good idea and a good plan not to. I would have hated to have this thing hit on the religious issue to confront it, because I don't think it has anything to do with religion. But it got intermingled, it got married together, along with the idea that somehow it would affect the Supreme Court or the court's decision on the marriage amendment. And so everything kind of got mixed up in there. And I think when we debate this, it has to be debated on its merits and its fairness. And I believe it's a fair issue to bring forward and address.
So do you think the legislature this session has done enough to adequately address the public concerns out there over air quality?
I'd like to mention that. I think House Bill 121, I wish it passed the House. It was defeated on a tie vote in the Senate committee. That is the bill that would have allowed Utah to have more stringent regulations than the federal government. It had all of the buy-in from all of the different groups. That was a huge disappointment to me. I know it was the governor's one of his top priorities. I think it's near the top, if not at the top, of the public's priorities this session. So I would have liked to have seen that one.
But
Senator Adams?
with a vote from one of your senators, right?
Pardon?
The Senate, that failed with a vote from one of the senators from your caucus, did it not?
Actually, when you take a look at that vote, it was a 3-3 tie. And so it wasn't actually defeated only by the rules of the way things happen. If the bill receives a tie, it doesn't move forward. And it's left in the committee. It was left in the committee until the committee went out of business.
Any plans to bring it to the floor, try to resurrect it this afternoon or this evening?
I'd take a look at it. I don't think now's the time to do that. I think we're down. The House has got their priorities that we're working on. The Senate has its priorities over in the House that we're all working on. And I think
We still have some hours left, so it is possible.
it's a discussion and
Legislative. It's the legislative session.
it's not over till
Senator Valentine's bill still could be heard. It's circled over there in the House,
And
so
we've got
those
another-
things are possible.
We've got another
Stay tuned.
clean air bill that
Buckle up.
adds $1 to utilities on a donation basis, opt out. It's still in the House, and we'll see what happens with it too.
Are you optimistic?
Oh, you know, I think we've got, what, now 11 hours left? We'll see.
The Tribune, it was last Sunday, paper highlighted some of the age of our school buses and how far those old school buses are technology several times removed. Their emissions are much greater than new buses today. And so taking Senator Adams' bill and having some money there to either through a revolving loan to help convert some of those buses to natural gas would be a big big help for clean air, and so we're hoping that's an important bill for us. We're hoping that it does get heard in the House, and that and it gets passed.
Yeah, we talk about air quality, but it's hard when you're dealing with education and transportation and Medicaid, Health Human Services, and all the other issues we have. It's, you know, funding is always a challenge, and I've heard from lots of constituents that they want the air cleaned up and they're willing to participate to do that, but there are some that you know, it's hard to take tax revenue that's dedicated for these other sources, and the bill actually allows it to be almost a donation, because you can opt out. Those that can't afford it can or those that don't want to, don't believe that it's a good effort. But I believe, at least from the constituents I've talked to, is that they want us to do something. They want us to fund it, and I think they're willing to participate to try to help do that situation.
House Bill 388 is another one that we could be dealing with. It's going to address some of the mass transit issues and things like that. But I think I'm hoping will come up this afternoon.
Have you figured out how to deal with the voter registration information?
I think there's been some, Senator Valentin, you have some intel on that?
Yes, I was in the negotiations this morning. We're still drafting the bill itself. And it looks like we now have an agreement as to what to do with that. We'll just have to now look at the nuts and bolts and make sure that the car stays together.
What bill will you use to carry that?
I'll be using Senator Maine's bill. It'll be Senate Bill 36.
Can you talk about the agreement yet?
Not until we get it all on paper.
Does it take Representative Edwards' bill and marry the two, or?
There's concepts out of Representative Edwards' bill that will be contained in Senator Maine's bill, but they're not yet fully done until we get the drafts, and we haven't seen the drafts yet. We're hoping to have the drafts shortly after lunch. That's what the legislative attorneys indicated they would have them ready by that time.
I thought you were going to take it to caucus this afternoon. Is that not right?
We're going to take the concepts to caucus, so we're not going to tell you until the media before we even talk to our own body.
Okay. We good? Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Questions.
We have a couple. Oh,
I do. I have one for Senator Jones with a text.
is it from Robert Gerke?
SB 100, right?
This text is for Senator Jones. Senator Jones, since today is your last day on the Hill, what advice do you have for Utahns, and can you share a favorite memory?
Right now is my favorite memory. My advice is for everyone to pay attention and to be involved, and hopefully, especially our women, run for office. Awesome.
Last one.
Okay. This one's from @AmyJoy16. What do you call a slew of reporters gathered for Utah Senate availability? A pack, a herd, gaggle, pod, litter, or murder?
Bored.
All the above?
We'll let them vote on the way to describe themselves.
Thanks.
Thank you.